I should be standing up for you because today's a Saturday. I know there's a lot of things that you'd rather be doing, like sleeping, cuddling, or whatever it is that you do on Saturday morning. So thank you for being here, and thank you for deciding to take advantage of this program to improve your life. Now, as you see on the screen, it says what? Your own cup of tea. Why your own cup of tea? Because whatever you decide your future is going to be is dependent on nobody but you, the choices you make. Now, how many people have heard others say that, hey, me, I don't know anybody, so I can't get a job? Or, as for me, I wasn't born into this type of family, so I can't get connected. In fact, how many of you have ever said that before? Hey, nobody here. Wow. Then I guess I have a cream core already here. But I know at least one of you in here has talked about who they are connected to, because I've been talking to each one of you individually. So, but I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. I'd like a volunteer to tell me what networking is. Fauzi, you know I'm going to pick up on you, right? What is your concept of networking?
I guess it's meeting people and exchanging information.
Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Quick, can you help us out?
It's building useful relationships to aid you. Building useful relationships in your various fields of endeavor.
One key word you said there, useful. Another key word you said, exchanging information, right? So, networking is really about what? Engaging, interacting, exchanging useful information with people that you perceive to be what? Useful. Now, everybody's perception of what's useful will be different based on everybody's perception of where they want to be in life. But make no mistake, you won't network with a person who's not useful to you. Maybe the person will network with you and you will decide to respond. But before you engage in any type of network, most of all, first and foremost, you want to make sure that there's value. So there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. It's the way you present it that counts. Okay? Let's get this straight. There's no shame in expecting value in your network. Everybody does that. But it's the way you present it. You don't necessarily have to make it so obvious. Next slide. So what does it mean to network? Connecting, interacting, exchanging, and developing what? Professional or social contacts. So I noticed that when they asked the gentlemen here to get up and mingle, a lot of them were sitting. I'm sure some were sitting because they were shy. Some were sitting because they weren't sure how to approach whoever they wanted to talk to and how to start the conversation. And some were sitting because maybe they realized that, hey, the person I want to walk up to, there might be somebody else who's trying to walk up to them and we may clash. But whatever your case is, usually, by the time you walk into a room, you need to learn to have the habit of scanning the room and deciding on who you want to talk to and who you want to have in your Rolodex. That's why we talk about quality network and just network in terms of numbers, and we'll go into that later. Now, one phrase I want you to remember, this phrase has been bandied around a lot, but it's a very important phrase. Your network determines what? Your net worth. Remember that. Your network determines your net worth. So you need to what? You need to surround yourself with good people. It's an Islamic thinking, but it's been bandied around. A lot of people have been using it. One of my external mentors, Les Brown, uses it a lot in his motivational speeches. Now, you don't want to think of networks just purely in terms of money, even though your network can definitely help you achieve more in terms of success and net worth in terms of money, but also in terms of your value. Now, what's currently happening in Ghana right now? What's the crisis situation that's happening in Ghana right now? Can anybody tell me?
No fuel.
There's no fuel. Okay. How did you get here? You don't have time. Lucky you. How did you get here? I'm sorry? You drove here. You have a full time. Somebody hooked you up. That's what I'm talking about. That's the network right there. Can you imagine that, first and foremost, somebody warned me about it. Hey, there's going to be a crisis. This was like a week ago. So I started keeping my tank close to full. Then, even when my tank was like 3/4, I was driving on, was it Friday or Thursday? Somebody said, hey, guess what? The tank just came up here to total. So quickly, if you want to fill your tank, so what did I do? I quickly drove. The point is, I have all these different guys who are informing me on what's going on and how to protect myself. Meanwhile, there are other people sitting around who don't have such a network and have a half tank, so can't even leave the house. Yesterday, I was with one of my colleagues, a fellow director in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and she had an empty tank, and you should see this lady running through her NDC contacts, trying to find somebody to just say, hey, I'm mobilizing a tanker to come and fill your petrol. I mean, this lady was calling. And it kind of gave me an idea. I'm like, wow, it's amazing how certain people quickly find themselves affiliated to certain people based on who's in power. And this is what I call the concept cash me quick or cash in quick network. You see, that's a network you manage. You know that, okay, these people, maybe when they're in power, or these people, when this particular event happens, you can quickly mobilize, utilize that network, and when that phase disappears, you quickly pull out. You know, that's cashing quick. You need to know those different types of networks. But before we go into that, next slide please. Who is your first person you ever network with when you come into this world?
Mother.
Your mother, thank you. Now, most of the time, she will already be a valuable network because she will like you. But if you're not lucky and you're born maybe without a nose and a leg and she decides not to dump you in a guitar, then, you know, you already have that first network. But you also, even though she already more or less would like to have your back, you also have a certain role that you have to play, right? Depending on what type of good kid you are, or what type of good child you are, she may go out of her way to help you to prosper. True or false? Now, after your mother, who's next? I'm sorry?
Father.
Well, there's your father, and then there's the rest of your family. Okay? But before we get into that, why would you even bother trying to keep in touch with all these people? Why network? I'm sorry? You have to. Why? Somebody should give me a very selfish reason why they want to network.
Because you're going to depend on
What type of help? Okay. I'm sorry?
You're going to depend on them for a while.
For a while, okay. For what?
Financial assistance.
Financial assistance,
Survival.
survival, skills. There's a story I'll share with you about a relative of mine. I'm not going to go into details, but during, you know, the PNDC time, the time when, you know, things were a little shaky, this man was almost taken out. And if it hadn't been for a friend of his who informed the right people, today he wouldn't be alive. My point is, sometimes your network can protect you even when it comes to your life. This young man was also telling me a story about one time he was they were in their area. This was around the Mamprobi area. These guys tried to rob them. Luckily for them, one of the guys within the group recognized that, oh, this is an area boy. He's like, oh, Charlie, this guy be area boy. And all of a sudden the guys are like, okay, pass it. I mean, of course, you want networks for stronger than that, but whatever your network is, it can protect you, it can connect you, it can help you financially, and it can help you get a job. Is there anybody here who's going to be looking for a job anytime soon? Anybody? Why are you nodding your head? Raise your hand. Raise it well. Aha. When you finish, talk to that man. That man is a potential employer. Aha. Because I'm selling you here. So what do? You also network for the possibilities of what? Securing your future. Now you know what's funny? This is for the ladies here. I know every lady here has been to level 100, right? At least. True or false? Do you remember that time when all those big men were chasing you? Did you consider that maybe after national service you'd be looking for a job? How many of you kept the contacts? Oh, you did? Sharp girl. That's why you're working now. You have a job, sorted. But you see, we never think about it, and that's what we talk about when we talk about managing your network. Okay? So having a network is not just enough. Being linked up is not just enough. Getting all those hundreds and hundreds of cards is not just enough. What you need to do is you need to learn how to what? Sort them out. That's what your Rolodex is for. Sort them out. Oh, this person, okay, whenever I want to hang out, yeah, this guy is connected to a lot of ladies. This person, he knows how to get money funded. This person, he has a lot of good ideas. This person, she's connected. You know, you have them all sorted out. And then you say, okay, this person right now is going through a tough time. He may not be very, but let me manage him. Let me keep in touch with him. Let me let him, now he needs me. So let me be a good friend to him. Because one day, the tables are going to turn. And that's a mistake a lot of people make. Especially our young ladies. You see, they don't manage their network. Then all of a sudden, 5 years later, when they are really hot, then they pick up phone and call. Charlie, I just saw your number and I need a job. Click. And that's the usual thing. You have to manage the network. Sometimes, you know, even just a quick, oh, hello, how are you doing? I was just checking up on you, you know. You kind of do it once, twice, and the fifth or sixth time, then you tell them what exactly you are. At that time, point, you started building a rapport. You know, so you have to learn to manage that network. It's very, very, very important. Your network determines your what? Okay. Now, these are types of networks that we have access to. Your family, friends, those of you who've been through school, your students, your fellow students. How many of you keep in touch with your friends from university? How many of you have friends who are now successful? Okay, good. So I'm hoping that you treated them well in school, so now you're getting the benefits of their success, right? I see a lot of hands are now down. Work colleagues. Please try to build a good rapport with the people you work with today. The fact that today, you know, he may seem like the boring guy at work doesn't mean that tomorrow he may not be owning this company. Manage that network. I'm not saying go party with them. Some people are not very fun to party with, but manage that network. Associations and clubs, these are very important. When Eugene was introducing me, he talked about Toastmasters, which is an organization that I'm a part of. Now, because of this affiliation with Toastmasters, anytime I go to any country that has a Toastmasters club or any number of Toastmasters clubs, all I have to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, hi, I'm also a Toastmaster. I'm here for this weekend. I'd like you to join one of your clubs. And most people will drop whatever they are doing to help me out, find a hotel, find this, find that. And it's very beneficial. So it's good to be plugged into some associations. Some of you are plugged into your old schools, those who went to Wesley Girls and Phantom, Motown. You know, you still have that synergy. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry, perfect. Somebody else was mentioning our school. You know, so these associations and these clubs are very important, and you want to make sure you engage consistently with them. Then, random strangers, I'm going to go to that because that's a little bit more complicated. Let's jump into social media networks. How many of you are on social media? Is there anybody here who's not on social media? Hey, good. Because if you're not on social media, you've already lost out too. Now, how do you take advantage of these social media? Besides the guys who go there looking for chicks. First and foremost, I think it's about 3 or 4 years that I actually started, about 3 years ago that I actually started thinking about the real concept of Facebook. I didn't spend a lot of time there because I always used to think of it as just a place I can throw pictures or talk about my events or keep in touch with certain friends. But then when I started running or developing organizations and I started having messages that I wanted to send across, that's when I realized the power especially the power of setting up a page, getting people to like that page, updating your status on that page. It's the cheapest way you can advertise anything you want to get into. So if somebody wants to add you, for those of you popular pretty girls here, please, if somebody's adding you, yes, they can be a bug, and that's why you have the click and delete. You allow them to add you. And then when you are ready and you have something you're selling, maybe you decide to start your fashion design company, you just paste it all over the place. And that's free advertisement for you. So those of you who have like 5,000 friends, that's 5,000 people in your database automatically, who you can sell whatever ideas or sell whatever product you have to. And yes, at least 10 people will buy, right? There's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, for those of you who are looking for jobs. This is a place that allows you to what? Paste your CV for free. People can come and look till finally somebody who needs your type of qualifications can just call you. And I know people in very high network jobs currently. I know a CIO currently of one of the big telecom companies who was actually hunted down through LinkedIn. They saw his profile, they called him for an interview. I know a number of other people who've also been hunted down through some of these pages. So it's good to take advantage of these social networks, especially if you're looking for a job. Put your CV there, make sure you're updating it. Remember, your network is not just about having it, but it's also about what? You have to what? Manage it, right? Okay. Now let's talk about the random strangers. My sister had her first interview, or one of her interviews with Tigo. She had an interview with Tigo based on somebody who was sitting next to her in her flight back home from school. Okay, now how random is that? You're sitting in a plane, it happens that the next person sitting to you is connected to a company that may need your skills or not. You get into a conversation, and the next thing you know, you have an interview. Once I was teaching at Regent University, and the only reason why I got that job was because I was with a friend. I met a random professor who happened to be the provost. He was impressed with the way I spoke. Next thing I knew, he was calling me, "Want you to come and teach here." I wasn't even interested. He was pushing for it. That's another scenario like that. But how do you speak to these random strangers? Or how do you make yourself available to the random strangers? Now let's give an example here. For example, you walked into this room. They opened the floor for mix and mingle. Fauzia, you got up. You spoke to that gentleman there. What did you say? Hi, your name is what? Okay, and what did he say?
Hello.
He's obviously a very shy guy. Well, sometimes you may not know what to say, you may not know what to talk about. It always helps. Please don't talk about the sun. That's too cliche. Or don't go say you look familiar, please. Avoid certain keywords. But it always helps to come up with a conversation around the theme, the central theme as to why you're there. So for example, somebody is at National Service trying to find out where she's been posted. Don't walk up to them and start talking about, "Oh, did you watch the match?" Or somebody looks solemn after seeing how Black Stars performed. Don't go there talking about, "Oh, have you seen the new Lamborghini that's been manufactured?" You need to figure out what the central theme is about that person is setting, and then you start talking. One thing I like to do with anybody I engage in is, rather than focus on what they can do for me or what value they can give me, that one is at the back of my mind. I focus on what is it that I can do for them now, or what is it that I can show them that they'll be interested in. Okay? Especially if they are high net worth individuals. You need to find something that you think you'll be interested in and showcase yourself. At least get him to part with his number and his email address. If he's in a talkative mood, you can start a conversation. If the person is not, you say thank you and you say you'll follow up. You go home, you type a nice email explaining what it is you do, all the different skill sets, you send it, and you wait patiently. If the first one doesn't get him, the second, third time, they will come back to you. Sometimes people follow up with you 6 months later and say, hey, I remember you said you did X, Y, Z. Do you still do it? If the person is in a talkative mood, of course, then you want to start talking, but be careful what you say. You don't go first day, next thing, get drunk, and then somebody who could be your potential employer, you're telling him all your secrets. You know, you have to manage that network. But it's always good to at least walk forward, say a quick hello, get to know the person, see what they're doing, and file them away, just in case. Anytime that you walk into an event, this is a challenge I'm going to give you. Anytime you walk into an event, anything remotely close to this one, at least make sure that you meet 3 or 4 key people that you can add to your Rolodex. Okay? That Rolodex needs to keep growing. But do you know how big your Rolodex is now?
I don't know, but I have quite a few names in my phone.
About 50,000.
I don't know.
And about 5,000. Wow. And you keep in touch with most of them regularly, right?
5,000.
That's what your PA is for, the secretary is for. And drop a quick note saying, hey, how you doing? But it's important. It really, really, really does help. Once in a while, you go back, you check on them, you say, oh, I was just checking up on you. Sometimes that number may even change. So by the time the number changes, it's easier to track if it's not been so long. But if you wait about a year, 2 years, and then you realize that, wait a second, I need that number, then it becomes a problem. Now, one of the things I'd like to also talk about, having a network in itself is also value, even within these markets. Do you realize that there are a lot of people whose, I wouldn't say it's their job, but their business is brokering deals in this part of the market? Just introducing one person to another and they make money off commission. Are a lot of you aware of that? So imagine you have a huge network where people just tap into, hey, I need somebody who is good at negotiation, or I need somebody who knows how to cook, or I need, and for everything, every connection that you make, you're making money on it. Isn't that a good way of making money? Trust me, I know. So, what do you look for in a network? Like I said, you look for value, useful people, right? You don't look for value just for today, but you also look for value tomorrow. Now, how can you perceive whether a person will be valuable today or tomorrow? When you start talking to somebody, don't always keep your conversation around what they are doing today. One question I like to ask a lot of people, which, funny enough, in this part of the world, a lot of people find surprising because you find a lot of people haven't thought about is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? In my office, every time I see a national service or an intern, I go like, okay, how you doing? What's your name? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So a lot of times they'll tell you, I don't know, or some of them will tell you, maybe somewhere in international relations, maybe. I'll say, go, think about it, come back. Now, based on how the person responds to the answer, if they respond to it well and very definitively, I know that, okay, this is somebody who is very convinced about where she's going or where he's going. And the moment I'm that sure that the person knows where they're going, I file their name down and put it aside. Then I start a little bit of mentoring. What that does is, it keeps them in my debt. So 4 or 5 years down the line, when they actually follow through, it's easy for me to pick up a phone and call and ask for whatever favor I need. See? It's not always about, networks are not always about you that need something going to change the big boys. But sometimes the big boys need to start mentoring the young people who look like they don't have much now, because you may need them later. That's one thing I always advise my fellow directors about, that nurture the young ones today, because tomorrow they will be in your positions and you will need them. So networking goes both ways. It's not just about people who have value today, but it's also about people who may have value tomorrow. Always need to manage them. It's a consistent exercise. It's a consistent engagement. You need to keep going back and forth and ensuring that you are always staying on point with that. Okay, so if you were brothers with president, or if you are very good friends with the president of Ghana, who else would you need in your network?
What do you say?
If you are very good friends with the president, you can ask him for anything you want. Who else would you need in your network? Probably people outside Ghana, right? Okay. If you are very good friends with the president of the United States, who else would you need in your network? Okay, so depending on the quality, now this is perceptive. This is perceptive. This is perceptive. It's based on you. But depending on the quality of your network and based on where you're going, you may lead less people in your network. So some may strive for quality. But the fact that your network may not seem like it's quality now and you have a lot of people in your network does not mean that it's not good. If you have a big network, it helps too. Because guess what? Maybe somebody in that big network of yours is the brother of that person you're trying to get into. Has anybody heard the concept of 6 degrees of separation? No? Rick, would you like to educate them about it?
Basically, it's the idea that you should be able to reach anybody through 6 people, through at most 6 people. So, for example, if say I need to reach the Minister of Finance, I should be able to talk to one person who will talk to at most 4 other people to get me to the Minister of Finance.
Absolutely, exactly.
So that's the idea of 6 degrees of separation.
And if you truly understand this concept, you will realize the value of managing your network. Because believe it or not, if you actually go through your network right now, you will realize that there's always somebody who is less than 6 steps away from anybody you want in this country. It's very important for managing your network. You need to understand that. There's this tool that comes with LinkedIn that actually allows you to categorize your LinkedIn contacts. So you can see in a graphical form, infographic, how many people you have in any country, where you have your greatest density of contacts, who is connected to who can give you contact to who. It's very easy, very clean, and you can use that to actually manage your networks. So if you were, say, having to travel to the UK today and you wanted to do business, you automatically know who's in what state, who's in what town, and what value, what job they do, etc. So if you could use tools like that to manage your network, it can really help you be effective. Okay? So these are also very important tools. Now, like I talked about already, cash in quick. Know those people that are valuable at a certain point in time and make sure that when their time comes, you cash in quick, you take advantage of the network. But you don't wait till their time comes, you start preempting. You know, there are some people who spend their time, all they do is link themselves with party people. So the moment the party's in power, hey, they engage. But the funny thing is, a lot of them don't plan for it. So I've had a number of friends of mine come and say, hey, I know this person and this person in power. Charlie, you know, we'll bring some business we could go do. Why are you now coming to me to kind of tell me bring some business and you have no idea what you want and you're just running around? By the time the person is even coming in, you should have had a plan as to what you need, so that by the time the person comes in, you know exactly what you're doing. I remember there was actually you asked me that question, this was about 15 years ago. We were talking about money, and he said, what would you, I said, I'd love to have $10 million in my bank account, and he said, what would you do with it? And I couldn't give you a definitive answer for it, and he said, if you don't know what you do with $10 million today, then when you get it, you're just going to waste it, which is really true. At any point in time, you should know what it is that you're looking for, what your plans are, and what you plan on using your network for before the network actually comes into play. So when the network comes into play, you know exactly what it is you need from them. Always preempt and manage your network. Always preempt and manage your network. Always remember that future value. So, you've come to an event like this, a network event. These are much easier because we all know that we're here to network, right? So it's easy to walk to anybody that you want and talk to them, engage with them. One of the easiest ways to ask for a business card. That one, even if you don't know how to say hi or hello or you are too shy, the least you can do is ask the person for a business card. Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But with the issue of the business card, the best way to get a business card is to give a business card.
Thank you.
Because a lot of people don't like giving their business cards. But once you give them your business card, they feel obligated and pressured to
give you back a business
give you
card.
back a business card.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very good point. And I'm sure some of you are wondering, but I'm a student, why would I have a business card? You know what, you'd be amazed. Outside, in other countries, students have business cards. It has their name, their number, simple. Name, number, simple. What it does is it takes you away from the hustle of, can I get a pen? By the time you're asking this person for a pen and a paper, the guy's gone. You know, you can't say, I'd like to keep in touch, here's my business card. Most of the time, unless the person is borderline rude or really does not like the pressure of people calling, he'll give you a business card. If he says, I don't have a business card, please be ready to write his number. Have a pen. Because some people will tell you that, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, I don't have a business card. That's okay, I can take your number. Very few people can directly tell you no when you're that ready. But they'll quickly tell you in a second, I don't have a business card. It's okay, I can take your number. Or at least your email address. Some will say, okay, fine, let me give you the email address. That's okay. You can start using it to interact. But don't walk away without getting at least half the room's business cards. And if you think that it's a big crowd, then scan the room, find those that you find most relevant at that point, walk up to them, and take a business card. Another mistake a lot of people do is everybody wants to gravitate towards the most popular guy in the room. So, for example, the speaker. At the end of the program, everybody walks up to him, and then you have this long line, and all he can do is say hello, hello, hello to about maybe 5, 6, 7 for a few short seconds. You don't get any value. And then when you try to contact him, he doesn't even remember you. Most of the time, nobody's looking at his PA, who is probably the person who is going to decide whether you see him or not. Nobody's looking at his secretary. Nobody's looking at possibly his brother who he came with at the program. You see, but that's why you always have to scan the room. Don't go to where everybody's flocking. Look at the next best thing and capitalize on it. Build a relationship with that person. So that the next time you pick up that call, after you build that rapport, you say, hey, when do I get to see your brother? It's easier. Okay? We already talked about randomly engaging people. We talked about taking advantage of social media. Now, let me talk about these four social media systems. Like I said, LinkedIn, usually for professional circles, if you want to do something professional, you're looking for a job. Facebook, people tend to use it more socially, but I've come to find out you can use it a lot for advertising, for getting yourself out there, for getting your ideas out there. Blogging is also very important, especially if you have ideas to share. Sometimes when you walk up to somebody, you say, hey, I have this creative idea I want to share. The person is probably getting a lot of proposals like that, so they may shrug you off. But if you have literature showing things you've written about, that people have commented about, that you've built a following for, people are more likely to listen. So if you're somebody who likes to share ideas, go out on Facebook every once, leave a status page, and get a following. And over time, people start to understand that this is your area. One of my favorites is Google Plus, and the reason why, I like Twitter too because you give short messages, but the reason why I like Google Plus is because you have tools out there that allow you to connect it with all the other social media pages. So when you go in there, you put a message in there, it automatically sends it to the rest. Also, all my Gmail contacts are already sort of linked in one way or another, so it gives me more access to my contacts that I usually email and stuff. Now, depending on whatever area that you're in, if you know that your name is tied to a business you do, generally try to stay away from confusing it with other social stuff that you do. Try to have a different account for everything that you do so you don't confuse people. And because usually when you have a following and they come to your pages for something in particular, some type of information, you don't want to give them clutter. So if you know that you're a social activist, then try to keep it that way. If you know you're somebody who educates, try to keep one channel for that. If you know you're a tech person, try to keep one channel for that so that your followers are consistent and they can use you as an authority on that. But that's another way to build a solid network. To summarize it all, I'll say we all have networks and we all network anyway. What is important is to consciously manage it and to ensure that what we utilize the network to ensure success. Okay? So start consciously networking today, from this moment. It's your own cup of tea. Now I'd like to take some questions. If you have any, let's engage, let's discuss, let's learn something new. Well, first and foremost, there are certain people that you can quickly determine if they're of value because you already know who they are, or you are in a program listening to them, or somebody has happened to introduce them and you know that they are affiliated to an organization that you know is of value. But if you cannot readily tell, say somebody standing at the corner of a room, is not minding anybody, is not talking to anybody, the best way to tell is to start talking to the person, to engage. If it doesn't kill you, strike a conversation. Sometimes when a person starts talking, you know that, okay, well, this person, I need to avoid them. So you find a nice way to get out of that conversation. But for the most part, you won't know till you engage. If the person hasn't already been introduced to you, you won't know till you engage. Also, if you generally find out that there are a lot of people gravitating towards somebody, chances are there's something they are looking out for. So you may want to explore it. But sometimes the people, the most unassuming people, tend to be the people that may have the most value to you. And especially for those who do business, a lot of times they want to, when they want to do business with a company, they're trying to get in touch with the CEO or the manager, you know, so you find them hovering around these people's offices. And sometimes the person who actually makes the decisions is the procurement officer. And he may be somebody who is very unassuming. Okay, so if you don't understand the structure of the business and you're just running around the big names, you may find out that you never get anything done. So it's best not to assume anything. It's best to explore yourself, investigate, and then find out based on what you're looking for if their value ties into your own goals. How do you network properly without seeming too clingy? Remember the part where I said, when after you get the required information, say the email and the phone number, if you do not have conversation, if the person is not being forthcoming, if the person is not, you know, firing up the conversation with you just as much as you're doing, just say thank you and walk away, and then follow up with an email. The last thing you want to do is sometimes you're talking to 7 people and you realize the person is just giving you yes, no, being a bit introverted, is not really interested. Maybe not because they don't want to talk to you, but maybe they're just not in the right place, or maybe they have something else on their mind. The last thing you want to do is seem pushy, because what you do then is turn them off. So you just leave it on a light note, say I'll follow up. It's wonderful meeting you. Go, take your time, sort yourself out, and then you can send them a mail. You were going to say something?
Yeah. Also, what I try to do is always look out for what I can do for the person that is going to be of value to me. So that's what I want to present half the time. And people are, if people like people who will do stuff for them.
Absolutely.
So you would never appear clingy if you can offer the person something.
Absolutely.
Look out for what you can. Look out for what you can offer the person without compromising your morals and your life. So that
like I said, it's perceptive. It all depends on you. What are you willing to give?
Look out for the opportunities. Look out for opportunities.
Look out for the
to do
opportunities.
something for the person, and the person will always remember you.
Absolutely. Well, I believe Facebook has block features. You are. For me, I tend to be a blunt person. So if I do not see value in your friendship, I'll sit you down and let you understand. And it's actually in your interest to understand that I don't believe in playing games. Right now, as we sit here, based on XYZ, you are of no value to me. And because you are of no value to me, we cannot keep this relationship. Sometimes you'll be amazed that people don't really think much about these things, but when you tell them, they tend to find a way to understand how better to engage. And sometimes, I've actually had situations where people I thought were of no value to me, after we had that discussion, found ways of becoming more valuable to me. But you see, selfish. So sometimes when they are not called out on it, they will take advantage if you allow them to. So when you're firm about the fact that, look, every relationship, everybody's gaining something. And if I'm not gaining anything, I mean, there's never going to be a straight balance, you know, but at least there has to be a back and forth. So if you realize that you have somebody who just likes to take and does not give, sometimes you have to be just upfront with the person. But if it's a Facebook person who just likes to annoy you, that's the block feature.
I should put a Facebook, but I use it as an example.
Okay.
I actually want how you expose, I teach you spirit, how to use it.
One way is to be blunt with the person. But if you still want to maintain that person just in case later then one way to that works for me is always be busy. So when the person calls you, I would really like to call you back, but I'm very busy right now. I mean, after a while they get the message. You understand? But if you're not available, then the person doesn't have time to be following all over the place. But for me, what's really worked with me is being blunt. Like, look, this is not working for me, or this is not valuable at this time. Because sometimes somebody just wants to chat when you don't really have time for, and they want to talk and talk. You need to be upfront and let them know, without being rude, if it's possible. I know for the ladies sometimes it's hard, because I've heard ladies scream at guys sometimes, "Don't call me again," and the guy will still call. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Look, I mean, in this day and age, I'm loving technology more and more.
Because it helps.
How is the person reaching you? Are they calling you? Right now, most phones, you have a block feature. So you can actually block people and
Block people.
call you every time you call you. Okay. Facebook. They call it different one. Block that line.
Keep blocking the lines, and if he doesn't get it, then you just have to tell him.
block that line. You know, so, I mean, depending on the kind of relationship you have, not everybody can deal with you being blunt. And there are some people who may not be of value to you today, but next week they may become almost invaluable to you. So you have to be careful how you set up those ties. That can
be salvaged.
Their dignity, or that
Exactly.
can be salvaged.
Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to use the last, is it 10 or 15 minutes to finish the evaluation forms. Breakfast at the Food of Champions. We'd like to know how we're doing so we can improve.